It might not be an exaggeration to say that the San Francisco 49ers are the best 6-10 team in NFL history. Coming off a tough Super Bowl 54 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs, the 49ers were decimated by injury at virtually every major position last season. Yet, finishing 6-10 might end up being a blessing in disguise for the 49ers. The team own the 12th overall pick in this year's draft, which is likely much higher than where the 49ers will pick in future drafts, given how talented the roster and coaching staff is. And there's only one position the 49ers should be targeting in the first round of this year's draft: quarterback. This isn't just a video essay to earn easy brownie points by dunking on Jimmy Garoppolo. In fact, given that Garoppolo still has 2 years remaining on his 5-year, $137.5 million deal, and backup Josh Rosen has been re-signed to a 1-year extension, one could quite easily argue that quarterback isn't a position of need for the 49ers. However, drafting a quarterback in the first round would stabilize the 49ers' future salary cap and give the team significantly greater freedom to re-sign its current stars on both offense and defense. That's the key here. For instance, trades like the one which sent DeForest Buckner to the Indianapolis Colts could be avoided. The 49ers traded Buckner to the Colts in exchange for the 13th overall pick last year. The Colts promptly handed Buckner a mammoth 4-year, $84 million extension, a deal which the 49ers wouldn't have been able to afford. Instead, the 49ers used its newfound salary cap relief to re-sign Eric Armstead and Jimmy Ward and drafted Javon Kinlaw as Buckner's replacement. While none of these moves are inherently bad, continuing to make small sacrifices like these will slowly drag the 49ers further and further away from getting back to the Super Bowl. And losing a year of trying to compete for a Super Bowl with all the injuries the 49ers suffered last season only accelerates the need to act proactively in order to maintain the strength of the overall roster. So, perhaps the more pertinent question in all of this would be, are sacrifices like trading away Buckner worth it in the name of paying Garoppolo? The ongoing Deshaun Watson situation makes the top of this year's draft incredibly hard to predict right now. The New York Jets and Miami Dolphins own the 2nd and 3rd overall picks respectively, and both teams are undoubtedly best equipped to present the Houston Texans with the most appealing trade packages possible for Watson. The 49ers, on the other hand, would find themselves at a distinct disadvantage in trade negotiations for Watson, owning the 12th overall pick. In order to compensate for the lower pick, the 49ers might have to include a premier young talent, such as Nick Bosa or Fred Warner, to get Watson. For the sake of this video, let's just assume the 49ers are firmly out of the Watson sweepstakes. The Jacksonville Jaguars will select Trevor Lawrence with the 1st overall pick. Any other outcome would be one of the most egregious crimes in NFL history. More than likely, one of Justin Fields or Zach Wilson will be selected with the 2nd overall pick, whether it's the Jets drafting its future franchise quarterback or the Texans drafting Watson's replacement. That means one of Fields or Wilson will still be available with the 3rd overall pick. The 49ers should act aggressively to trade up and secure whichever quarterback is still available, if possible. Trading up from the 12th overall pick to the 3rd overall pick would be a very costly move for the 49ers. It would likely require parting with a future first round pick at the bare minimum. But rather than just looking at the move as drafting a quarterback, take a step back and look at the wider picture from this. Having a quarterback on his rookie contract means the 49ers would have $20 million more in flexibility towards re-signing a premier young player like Bosa or like Warner. Look at it as $20 million more in flexibility as George Kittle's 5-year, $75 million contract kicks in. A contract which peaks with a cap hit worth over $18 million. Of course, the 49ers won't be the only team looking for a quarterback at the top of the draft. The Atlanta Falcons are a serious candidate to draft a quarterback with the 4th overall pick, hence the need for the 49ers or any other team to trade up for the 3rd overall pick. Additionally, there's the Detroit Lions with the 7th overall pick, although the Lions seem less than likely as other teams in the same area to draft a quarterback after acquiring Jared Goff from the Los Angeles Rams. The 49ers' biggest competition would likely come in the form of the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers own the 8th overall pick and have already shown a willingness to be aggressive when it comes to upgrading a quarterback this offseason. Although, if the 49ers are not able to acquire Fields or Wilson for whatever reason, the options don't just stop there. Trey Lance is considered the 4th best quarterback in this year's field and will likely be selected in the top 10 as well. If the 49ers identify Lance as the top target to draft, moving in front of the Panthers at 8 would be a shrewd decision. One could easily imagine the Lions, a team about to embark on a lengthy rebuild, wouldn't object to receiving even more future draft picks to only move down 5 slots with the 49ers. There is also Mac Jones, who is generally not considered a top prospect with the likes of Lawrence, Fields, Wilson and Lance. The 49ers would likely be able to select Jones with the 12th overall pick and could even trade back a few picks in order to select him, but the 49ers would need to be wary of other teams which desperately need a quarterback. Think of the New England Patriots with the 15th overall pick, the Washington Football Team with the 19th overall pick, and the Chicago Bears with the 20th overall pick. But the 49ers are different than every other team mentioned so far. The 49ers don't strictly need a new starting quarterback. The Jaguars do, the Jets do, the Panthers, Patriots, and Bears do. Other teams which haven't been mentioned probably need one too. Of course, every team drafts a quarterback for the future of the franchise, but in the case of the 49ers, it's a totally different reason. There certainly are other positions of need the 49ers could and perhaps should target through the draft. The team could look to target an edge rusher, given that Kerry Hyder Jr., who led the team with 8.5 sacks last season, is set to be a free agent, and there are still lingering doubts over whether or not Dee Ford will play football again. There's also the interior of the offensive line, which is probably the weakest point of the 49ers' current starting lineup, and starting centre Weston Richburg missed all of last season due to injury. Speaking of the offensive line, Trent Williams is also a free agent, while the general consensus seems to be that he will return and likely become one of the, if not the, highest paid offensive linemen in the league. Acquiring another offensive tackle would certainly become one of the team's top priorities if Williams was to leave. Obviously, cornerback is one of the most discussed positions of need for the 49ers this offseason. Richard Sherman, Jason Verrett, K'Waun Williams and others are all set to become free agents, and Sherman's departure in particular seems like a mere formality at this point. Patrick Surtain and Caleb Farley are two of the most highly touted cornerbacks in this year's draft, and rightfully so. Either player would provide a tremendous upgrade for the 49ers secondary, as the team literally have no one under contract at the position for now, although obviously this will change during free agency in a couple of weeks. But hypothetically speaking, let's fast forward to a year from now. Let's just say Williams has been re-signed to a humongous deal that does make him the highest paid offensive lineman in the league. Warner is also asking for $100 million to stay with the team, and Bosa also wants to talk about a future extension. Then what? If the 49ers select Surtain or Farley, which by no means would be a bad pick, then the next step would be to make another trade like the one which sent Buckner to the Colts. Another sacrifice. But if 49ers had one of Fields, Wilson, Lance or Jones, then the next step could be to simply cut or trade Garoppolo. According to Over the Cap, cutting Garoppolo would free up $25.6 million in cap space next season. Granted, there are other ways to create cap space with Garoppolo's contract, such as restructuring it or agreeing to an extension, but those solutions only postpone all the issues that have been discussed throughout this video. It's a solution for the short term and not the long term. Drafting a quarterback is the long-term solution for the 49ers. It will give the team significantly greater freedom to re-sign its current stars on both offense and defense. And the trades, like the one which sent Buckner to the Colts, can be avoided as the team tries to claw its way back to the Super Bowl. So, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, what's it going to be? TikTok, April 29th is coming soon. And there we have it. Hello, welcome back to The Present Tense. I'm Oliver. Thank you so much for listening to my video today. This is my first time doing a commentary style of video, so hopefully you enjoyed. I do believe the 49ers should take a quarterback in the first round of this year's draft. Hopefully I've spelled out my points in a coherent way. If you enjoyed this sort of video, drop a like so I know to do more in the future. Leave a comment telling me whether you agree or disagree. Is there a particular quarterback or player you think the 49ers should draft this year? And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one.